Hi, welcome to Checking In at SEA. My name is Perry Cooper. We are here again at the airport, and with us we're going to be talking about the COVID situation currently right now within the airport as we've got more travel that's happening here with the summer. With us is our continued advocate here for us at SEA, Dr. John Lynch, who's a board-certified physician of infectious diseases, and he's been promoted actually as well lately, by the way, is now UW Professor of Medicine. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
With.
Appreciate it.
As we talked about, and we can see behind us already, this looks back to normal again. We see plenty of people here ready to travel. We're seeing the increase. We're at about 80 to 85% now from a number standpoint, pre-pandemic level with travelers. The CDC still, though, is requiring masks here at the airport. Why is that? Let us know what's going on there.
Yeah, I think there's probably two really important points here, Perry, when you think about why we're continuing to wear masks. One is we're definitely not out of this pandemic. We're still seeing new cases in our hospitals, in the clinics, emergency departments, pediatric offices, and adult medicine offices, right? So the pandemic's still there. We also recognize that what we're seeing here in Seattle, what we may be seeing in the United States, is also very different than what we're seeing in many other parts of the world, right? So we've done a pretty good job of vaccination here in the United States, and particularly here in Western Washington and Seattle, but many parts of the world still don't have access to vaccination, and many folks are moving, as we know, all over the globe. The second part is that we're dealing with a slightly different part of the pandemic now compared to the way we were last year. We do have a lot of vaccinated people, but we have this new variant of concern. You may have heard in the media about the Delta variant. This variant is much more infectious. We know the vaccines are still very effective against protecting against it, but for those of us who aren't vaccinated, maybe we're too young, maybe our immune system isn't functional completely, or maybe some folks have decided not yet to get vaccinated. Those folks mixed together with this Delta variant really draw on us as a community to maintain our masking, particularly in inside crowded areas where we're close to other folks.
It makes that difference here in a space like this at the airport because you've got that mix of folks.
Correct.
All the way through the travel experience, right?
Yeah, and then this way each of us can feel a little bit more safe, a little bit more confident when we are closer together, when we're in more crowded circumstances and we're spending lots of time together.
Now, on the other hand, the CDC is also saying that their recommendation is not to travel until you are fully vaccinated. What's the considerations and thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a strong proponent of vaccination. We got incredibly lucky, thanks to a large number of scientists and researchers around the design of these vaccines that we're using, the J&J vaccine, the Moderna and Pfizer vaccines that are available in the United States. These are incredibly powerful. They protect us against dying from COVID, from getting very sick with COVID, and in fact, reducing the risk of even getting infected. And really importantly, that also helps us decrease the risk of transmission to other people as vaccinated people. So when you think about, what's the most powerful thing we could potentially do to slow down or end this pandemic, it's vaccination. Vaccination keeps us safe as individuals, and it keeps our community safe. And when we think about just, the condition of flying, it keeps everyone in that plane safe, everyone at that gate safe, everyone we interact with here working at the port or traveling with us as safe as possible.
Now, once Washington fully reopened here, just in the last month or so, we were out actually cleaning up a lot of the things that we had put together during the pandemic season. A lot of those 8,000 signs that we had up about distancing, the stickers on the floor, all those things are gone now. So what are the tips for travelers as we're traveling now at this point in the pandemic? Is it different? Is it greatly much the same?
Yeah, I think about it mentally much more like a dial. Rather than on and off switches, it's kind of a series of switches, thinking about the whole cockpit of an airplane, thinking about the port. Not everything is on and not everything is off at any one time. And as we move through this, we're looking at the cases out in the community, we're looking at the number of people in the hospital, we're looking at those vaccine rates wherever we are, and where we're going, and where those folks are coming from. And so when we think about what we can do as we travel, it's a lot of the things we've talked about in the past, starting with, are you sure you're feeling good when you leave the home? Are you coming to the, SeaTac for the right reasons? Are you feeling healthy and intact? Are you vaccinated? Is your mask in place? Are you washing your hands, right? There's no reason to crowd together. We've talked about it also in the past, we know that being at the gate at the right time is really important to keep things moving, and that's really important to the safety of the overall facility. But, you don't need to be necessarily packed in for the entire time you're in the airport. If you can find space away from the gate until it's your time to be there appropriately, when the company asks you to be there, that's great. try not to eat in groups of people, right? We have places in the port where it's distanced away from other people, where you can safely take off your mask and eat, thanks to the great ventilation and filtration that's going on, not only in the building, but even in the trains that we take out to some of the different terminals. And so it's the same stuff that we've been doing. And what I'd ask people to do is to continue with that. And it's not necessarily a bunch of new stuff, it's kind of a lot of the same things that we've been doing all along.
And there are more people here, so that's one of the things of point as well too. We're still a small space like we had before all this pandemic happened, so this can be a crowded place pretty quickly. Another thing that's added on to it here just in the last week actually is the cruise season. Cruise season back to Alaska. We've got those ships that are now starting to take off again. I mean, some more folks coming in through here, but also some preparations and some thoughts for people in their travels going through the cruise terminals. What are some of those preparations that we've thought of there or put together?
Yeah, it's a lot of things we just talked about with really good ventilation, really good filtration, and then those port terminals where you're getting onto or off of a cruise boat. It feels like a lot of the things you're doing here in the airport where you're moving through and moving off. But what's different about that situation is, unlike an airplane where it's a pretty limited amount of time, even for a long flight, an international flight, cruise boats, you're out there in the Alaska season for about 5 to 7 days. And so what we're really trying to do is to work with the companies that operate these ships to make those cruises as safe as possible, right? So supporting their desires to make sure everyone's vaccinated, or as many people as possible is vaccinated, preferably really high levels, offering testing, and when you're coming into the terminal, coming in instead of just a lot of people arriving all at once and sort of just moving through en masse, sort of metering people through, so that maybe you have an appointment to show up at the terminal at 10 o'clock, or maybe 10:15 or 11:30, and show them around that time and moving people through in sort of a slower, more controlled way that reduces crowding. So again, it feels like a lot of the things we're doing here: ventilation, filtration, reduce crowding, keeping the masks on when you're in those groups, testing, and ultimately vaccinating as many people as possible.
All right, excellent. Well, Dr. Lynch, we appreciate your time once again. For more information, again, look on our website. You'll also see some information not only for the airport, but also for updating for cruise and where you can get information there. So keep track of those things before you start to head out as well. So again, thanks for checking in at SCA, and we'll have more for you in the future.